Hi there! Welcome to episode 6 of the Autistic Voice Project. As always, I am Matt Lowry, LPP, a guy in Kentucky who can diagnose and do therapy for the autistic people.
I am Dr. Erin Finley, PsyD, in Napa, California, also autistic, ADHD, and gifted.
Indeed. And last time we were talking about DSM criteria. We were talking about how the neurotypicals and the allistics like to frame us as subhuman. And we were talking about the difference between identification as autistic, self-identification as autistic, versus a medical diagnosis. And we rewrote the definitions of, we rewrote the DSM-5 criteria for autism, being more human-y, using more plain language instead of this weird medical terminology, because, again, this is a thing that we are born with. This is a cultural identity that we pass down from parent to child. And we are going to talk more today about identity, more in depth about how autism presents in people. And this is a nice thing that you might be able to use yourself or send it to a loved one and say, see, this is where it comes from, Mom.
Yeah, because there is a whole, child-to-parent autism diagnosis thing.
Yeah, the pipeline. Yeah.
The pipeline.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was the word I couldn't think of.
And this is a neat thing. Whenever I do an evaluation, I am very warm and welcoming. And once again, if you're listening to this, I don't know when it will be out at this point because timey-wimey things, but I will be doing a Chicago school course with Kate McNulty on how to do autism-affirming evaluations. This is a big difference because, with my ex, my son's mother, she does not like the autism. She is allistic. I am autistic. And when it came time for my son to be diagnosed, because when my son was born, he loved to stare at lights. He loved to stare at ceiling fans. His favorite toys spun around in a circle. He had a spinny plate with a puppy on it that he would take everything possible to see if it would spin. I was like, yes, this is the way. That's my little guy. She was like, well, we'll see. I was like, well, I'll get one of my friends to diagnose him. And she's like, well, you're biased. I'll get one of my people. So he went to Norton, and that was a horrifying ordeal. So I do it in a more affirming way. I will congratulate people on being autistic. I say it's someone's aut mitzvah. Because we say, congratulations, today you are autistic. And in doing so, I explain it in very, very plain terms. And when I do that, the parents who bring in kids are usually like, but I do that, but I do that, but I do that. And then after a while, you see this look of shock and realization of, and my parents did that, and my sister does that, and her kids do that. And this runs in families. There's the last data says that there's a 92% heritability rate. And even then, you got to figure that they probably missed somebody along the line to bump up the number a little higher. And this is the thing. It runs through families. People have been autistic since the beginning of time. And barring anything from RFK, we will continue to be autistic until the end of time. So we are going to talk today about the spectrum graphic, all the other areas where you can be autistic aside from the DSM criteria. Because again, interoception is real. It's a very significant thing for autistic adults. And this is going to be some of the stuff that we talk about.
So before we dive into that, I want to just name that the DSM criteria was created by people who were not autistic, studying white middle-class boys who were acting out. Yeah. Okay.
Who were
acting
causing
out in
other
a certain
people
way and causing other people to be uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that's how the criteria was developed. So it's important to think about the DSM criteria through that lens. Also, a few podcasts ago, and I can't remember which episode now, but you can go back and review them if you want.
You should listen to them all.
Right.
Yeah, listen to them all.
If you haven't listened to them all, listen to them all. Anyways, I firmly believe that all autistic people and all neurodivergent people to some degree have an element of developmental trauma because of the mismatch between quote unquote neurotypical norms and the way that the person naturally interacts with the world. And so when you're thinking about the diagnostic criteria in the DSM, it's important to factor in that all of those boys were likely traumatized as well. So what you're looking at there is not an identification of what it means to be autistic. The DSM diagnosis is actually what it means for an outsider to look at and not understand a white, middle-class, autistic boy who behaves in certain patterns and who is likely traumatized.
Yeah. And this is the thing, because...
remember that.
Yeah, we live in a world where, because of this trauma, the traits that neurotypicals associate with autism are distress traits. Like the meltdowns, the shutdowns. These are trauma responses. They are not autistic traits per se. And this is a big thing about this. This is why we have issues with the label profound autism, because of the comorbidities and because the other stuff that is piled upon that. And the theory is that we live in a world that is so damaging to autistic people that we don't have a good example of what a healthy autistic person looks like, because none of them make it through childhood unscathed.
Right, right. And for anybody who wants to go on a research rabbit hole, minority stress is what you're looking for.
God, yes, absolutely.
And there are many ways to experience minority stress. This is only one of them.
Yeah.
So I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah, including the phrase cultural paranoia, because it was invented to say, well, you know, it's weird that black people don't trust white people. I don't understand, said the white person.
Right.
I can't imagine.
Never been pulled over 5 times in a row for, not speeding.
Yeah. I can't imagine why these indigenous people don't trust white people. That is baffling to me. Yeah.
Shocker.
It's fascinating. It shows such a lack of insight. And that's the thing, because we have been hurt many, many, many times. And this changes the way that we react to people. This changes our stress level. This changes our cortisol level. This changes the way that our meat body reacts to stress, which is why we also have a host of comorbid medical conditions, which we're going to have to do a whole episode about because it's all due to stress.
That's a whole different thing.
It's going to be a thing. So let's start off with stimming, because again, we call it repetitive behaviors, but it's also self-stimulatory, it's self-regulation, and it can happen in any of your 8 senses. If gustatory stimming, you can eat, you can listen to podcasts. Did you know that having sex is a form of stimming?
Yes, I did.
Yes, and if at some point we will have an expert, Cade Sharp, in this area who will come on and talk about autistic kink, because that's a thing, because he studies this sort of thing for the autistic people. And this is a common thing for us, because we are very sensory-oriented people. We are very sensory-focused, and we can stim in all these areas, but they may not be obvious. And again, as we grow up, because of criticism from outsiders, we may learn to hide things. We may curl our toes inside our shoes so that no one can see them. We may sing songs in our head or chew on our tongues or, that kind of stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be seeing me rock and move my hands around a whole lot, because I am free to do whatever the hell I want. It's my podcast. I can move. And you can move too as you listen. Go for it. It's okay.
Yeah. And what you can't see for me right now in this moment is I'm rubbing my feet on a sandpapery type surface.
Oh, very sensory thing.
And I also have a heating pad under my feet in case they get cold. And occasionally my dogs are wandering in and out, and I'll pet them. So that's how I'm stimming today.
Because, again, petting your animal friend is a form of co-regulation. It's a form of sensory seeking. It's a form of bonding. All sorts of things. Autistic people love animal friends. And, okay, so let's go to special interests. Because SPIN, special interests, we can shorten it to SPIN. And animal friends are a big spin for autistic people. We tend to love our libraries. We love our museums. We love our gardens. We love our collections. We love our animals. And one of the things that I noted when public with this whole thing was like, yes, my cousin who gave me my hedgehog also had 17 other animals and a host of hedgehogs. But no one ever noticed that she's autistic, or her daughter, or her mother, who was a single mother by choice in the 1970s, who worked at the University of Kentucky. And again, my other aunt, who collected every form of Democratic memorabilia imaginable, had no fewer than 4 separate busts of John F. Kennedy, and who had a child who went exclusively by the name C-3PO for a year. You
Nice.
know, like all neurotypical children do. So,
I love
yeah,
it.
but
I love
no
it.
autism in the family anywhere. We can't imagine where that came from. So,
No.
yeah, but
One of the things I want to add to, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
No,
is
this
that
is the
some
way. We'll come to that with communication differences. Please
Indeed.
continue.
and also consent, like you and I are checking in with each other
Yes.
as we're sort of jumping in, so we're not speaking over each other, or at least we're trying not to. And so the thing that I wanted to mention was that some stims are pathologized and some stims are seen as quote unquote normal. So having animal friends, loving your animal friends, those are seen as quote unquote normal to a degree, right?
Yeah.
17 hedgehogs, maybe not quite as quote unquote normal unless you run a hedgehog rescue, then it's totally normal. But for those of us who are, like I have 2 dogs and a cat, and, I love them to bits. And, nobody is going to look at that and think that's abnormal, quote unquote. But I know that how much of a role they play in my life, my self-regulation, co-regulation, stimming, all the things, interoception and exteroception, all the things.
Yeah, and this is
It's
the thing,
not
because
obvious.
with animal companions, they can be essential to helping you understand interoceptive cues like, oh, you have low blood sugar, go eat. You look a little dizzy, go sit down, you're going to have a seizure. You look like you're nervous because you're clenching your fists, let's go sit down and pet me, shall we? And this is why having a service animal can be a life-changing event for autistic people, because the animals are very cognizant of these micro changes in your presentation. They're aware of it, and they can help you become aware of it too. And this is another reason why autistic people often communicate well with animals, because contrary to holistic belief, animals do communicate. They might not use English words, although ravens can use English words, and it's creepy and cool at the same time. But
and there are actually some bunch of dogs and cats and maybe other animals too now that are using AAC boards.
Yes,
which is
cool. Fantastic. Yes, because like, who's the dog, Molly Muffin, that had the existential crisis because she looked in the mirror and said, "Why dog? Why dog?" and couldn't wrap her head around the fact she thought she was a human, but she was like, "Why am I a dog? Oh my God, I'm a dog." And she became very depressed about this and couldn't understand why she wasn't a human as she previously believed. And this is very fascinating into the inside of all this. But again, this is also why giving non-speakers the access to AAC devices, because once again, it is assumed by the holistics of the world that if you cannot speak, you must have a low IQ and cannot process things. My son loves his AAC device, and it's fascinating because when he has his AAC device, he's just sitting there, and he has a running internal monologue that he just types out and types out and types out because he's got all these thoughts going in his head, and he's memorized the entire discography of the Alan Parsons Project, of Weird Al Yankovic, of the Muppets, and he will just sit and type out all of the lyrics and sing all these lyrics to himself, and completely unaware that anyone like me is observing him. And it's really, really neat because this communication is much bigger than just shooting words out your mouth hole. Because communication is hard. Your brain fires electrons and chemical impulses at the speed of light, and then we have to translate that into waggling a floppy piece of meat in our mouth. It's a wonder that we communicate anything.
It is a miracle that we communicate anything at all.
Yes, so this is why our communication, we'll go there next, is different from allistics. And again, we do have a tendency to go off on tangents. We have a tendency to interrupt each other, because if we don't fire off words from our mouth hole, we might forget. We might do this. So talking over each other, getting back to each other, checking in with each other is part of this. And when we have a friend on with Dr. Cade Sharp, he'll tell us all about that whole consent thing, because this is a big part of autistic relationships, the consent and checking in and this awareness of things. But we also use the echolalia, the palilalia, the echopraxia, the echologia, scripting. Oh God, the scripting. This is the thing, because if we have a set of responses ready to fire off, it can often be anxiety producing to come up with new words on the spur of the moment. Because if an allistic comes up to you and says, working hard or hardly working, how the hell am I supposed to respond to that? That's the dumbest thing I ever heard, man. So
here's how you answer. Ready? Hard to say.
There you go. That's a good script. I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, it's because
and it's equally meaningless.
Exactly. My first reaction is to point at them and screech like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like, you know, if you've seen the movie with Donald Pleasance, Donald Sutherland. Donald Pleasance is a whole different horror movie. But Donald Sutherland, Jeff Goldblum, fantastic old thing. Very, very much about masking so that you won't get body snatched. But this is the thing. We need these scripts to alleviate the anxiety that comes with unknown interactions. And a lot of times we will look to TV or books or movies to learn scripts for these appropriate ways. And a lot of times we will internalize big chunks of fictional characters to help us with these social interactions. And we'll get to that in relationships in just a little bit. But this is the thing about this. Our scripting is important. We need to know these things so that we can behave as a proper human. And it sure is a Wednesday today. Oh man, Hump Day is right around the corner, is it not? Thank goodness it is Friday. Have you had a good weekend? My weekend was good. Was your Christmas good? My Christmas was good. It was good. Are you good? I'm good. I'm fine. Are you fine? I'm fine. It's ridiculous. Okay, so one of my favorite professors at UK was Dr. Fred Danner. And he was in the developmental psychology program. He's surely autistic. He realized that the biggest lie anyone ever told is the words, I'm fine, because no one's fine. No one says they're fine when they're fine.
That's the only F word my husband is not allowed to say.
Yeah, exactly. So he decided he was going to conduct a micro study, and every time somebody asked him, how you doing, Fred? He'd say, great, I've got cancer, and then keep on moving. And see when people would say, what? Whoa, what? And like maybe 2 out of 10 did that. Because they weren't listening. They just said, hi, how are you? I'm fine. Are you fine? I'm fine. It's fine. I'm fine. Are you fine? I'm fine.
Totally fine.
It's a meaningless interaction. It's essentially a sonar ping. You shoot out a sonar ping. It bounces off somebody. It's a human CAPTCHA test. Because, so this is the thing. Going back to the early days of Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens were hominids that were in competition with a number of other hominids like Cro-Magnons, Denisovians, all these other very close to Homo sapien, but Homo sapiens had one thing going for them. Boy, they loved war, which says something about our society these days.
Sad but true.
So they had 2 options, fight or fuck. And a lot of times there was interbreeding. We have Denisovian and Cro-Magnon DNA, Neanderthal DNA mixed in with us, which is a whole other area of study. But generally speaking, the Homo sapiens ruled the earth. So at some point, it was an evolutionary thing to look at another hominid and give them some sort of riddle of the Sphinx to determine if they were safe or not, or if they were one of the other. Because if they were one of the other, they had to die in order to protect the Homo sapiens. And this is why we have a lot of bias against autistic people today, because studies have shown that neurotypical people make snap judgments about us based on our eye contact, based on our cadence and rhythm of speech, based on our autistic accent. And I think we've already covered autistic accent, but
we did.
It's monotone, disjointed, pedantic speech with tangential conversation and difficulty modulating breathing as we speak, because that's a script and I have to go through it and I can't breathe while I do it. So, but that's the thing. They immediately dislike us because we fall into the uncanny valley of we're sort of human, but not fully human. And that can be a very big bias and a lot of discriminatory stuff, which is a big reason why autistic employment is lower than that of neurotypicals and holistics, because we're good at doing the job. Because let's say that, you've studied bridges your whole life and you go to a bridge maker, say, yes, look at all these bridges I've built, but you're not good at talking about the bridges. When you go to an interview, they're not asking you about your ability to build a bridge. They're asking you about your ability to go have a beer with the boys after work and go socialize with the people. And this is even into academia, because it's very, very difficult to get past the gatekeepers because they want to know how well you socialize with the cohort, and it can be exhausting.
Yeah.
So, our relationships are different and our communications are different.
Just wanted to say also, our scripts are not necessarily memorized word for word. Sometimes we practice based on bullet points so that we have
we love bullet points.
Bullet points are beautiful. But so if you're thinking about do I fit as autistic or not, how much do you depend on thinking through the bullet points of the conversation or potential variations of the conversation before you go into it? The more that you do that, the more likely it is that you're autistic.
This is the thing that I work on with autistic people, because interpreting the message sent by email is a big thing, because an email will be sent and it's this giant cluster of words that starts off with, hi, how are you? I'm great. Thanks for asking. I just went out to a thing and the thing was the thing and I did the thing. And anyway, do this by Monday or you're fired. But anyway, I hope you have a great weekend. I hope loves and kisses, blah, 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 blah. And then we have to sort through it and say, so what are they trying to say?
What's the actual message here?
Yeah. What is important? What's not important? It's like a verbal math puzzle that we have to figure out all the details that are important. And it's ridiculous. I don't understand any of this. So, yeah. but this is an info dump, and we're giving a lot of information, and this is a communication form. But this is why we have differences in relationships, because due to trauma, due to not being accepted, we have a lot of rejection sensitivity. And I just heard the term today, scopo. Man, what is the word? The perception sensitivity, because I know that perception sensitivity dysphoria is a common thing for us, that we are very, very sensitive to how people perceive us. But the word for that, scopo... God, I'm scrolling through...
Scopophobia, maybe?
Probably scopophobia. I'm scrolling through Autistic Connections as I talk, because I put everything I find in there. But again, there's a lot of stuff that gets buried because people move very quickly.
Or scoptophobia is the fear of being stared at or being watched.
Yeah, and we have that because, again, due to experiences, we might walk differently. We might trip over our own feet. We have random attacks of gravity because of proprioceptive issues. Walls assault us at every damn turn.
At every corner, literally.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. We love puns, too. Because we are very pedantic people. Yes, walls assault us at every corner. And yes, we run into the furniture attacks us. All sorts of things. And the neurotypicals notice us because it looks like we are aliens in a foreign meat suit. And we don't know how to work the meat suit. So they're like, that's a little odd.
Unless we're paying very, very close attention to the meat suit. And then sometimes some of us can exquisitely control the meat suit.
Yes. And this is the thing about if you stim through dance, you might be like left foot, right foot, and get through a whole routine effortlessly because you have this whole body script, but otherwise running into walls and doors. This is a normal thing for us. But this changes our relationships with people because we've become very, very sensitive about this. And this causes us to mask, to put on the human mask and say, hello, I am normal, just like you. Ha ha ha, I am the very normal human. And Alan Tudyk does a great job with this because any any off-the-cuff conversation with a man seems like he's one of us. But he's very good at unmasking masking and acting alien or acting as a robot or acting in all these ways. It's fantastic to watch him do his craft. And there's a lot of autistic people who become actors. Like Dan Aykroyd. He got into comedy because he knew that this was a way to be socially acceptable. And
Anthony Hopkins.
Yes.
Daryl Hannah.
Yes, so many people. And as we go through it, we find more and more and more people. There was somebody just the other day that the guy Tom Hardy is autistic. Now it changes the way that I view Star Trek Nemesis and Venom and all those, because he's an autistic guy doing things that are definitely not neurotypical, and it's fascinating. But this is why we have the 3 F's when it comes to relationships: friends, family, and fictional characters. Because we often develop very intense bonds with these fictional characters because we can research them. We can know everything about their life. We can know their motivations. We can know their patterns of speech. We absorb a piece of them into us because we want to be like them. And that's a safe thing to do, whereas it might not necessarily be safe to do that with a real live human, because humans are very chaotic. You don't know how it's going to be. If you show up wearing the same clothes as your fictional character, it's cosplay. If you do it at work, you get called into an HR meeting. It's very, very complex. And this is a weird thing for us. But this goes into, like, man, what haven't we covered so far? We've talked a little bit about...
Probably a bunch, but that's all right.
Yeah. So again, sensory stuff with proprioception and our movement and our interoception, our internal senses, being so focused on our tasks that we forget to eat, sleep, go to the bathroom. We forget that we're tired. We forget that we're exhausted. We do all this stuff. But this is a big thing that affects our executive functioning, which is the thing that neurotypicals notice with the high-functioning, low-functioning dichotomy, because we are very much bottom-up processors. Every human being is a combination of bottom-up, top-down processing. But generally speaking, we do a lot of bottom-up processing because we're very attentive to the detail that we're attentive to. There are some details we don't pay attention at all to, like, again, social expectations or what have you. If we're monotropically focused, screw the entire world. But, for instance, like, as we're driving down the road, my son will be able to name every electric tower on every road ever. He'll be able to tell you exactly which turns you'll go, which roads we're on. We went to see Fantastic Four, and he was able to tell me a turn-by-turn trip to and from the theater with all the road names. I don't even know the road names, but he's paying all the attention. And he was like, yes, that has 3 dots. And I was like, I didn't know that had 3 dots. And he'll say, draw electric tower. And he'll expect me to draw electric tower. And he'll say, draw electric tower with the 3 dots and the 3 fans and this and this and this. And I'm like, oh God, I don't know. And then I will draw it and do my best effort. And then he'll take it from me and fix it. Because he has a specific artistic vision. And he will do it to the degree to which he is satisfied. And as we speak, he is memorizing the entire discography of Weird Al Yankovic, proving that he is indeed my son. But this bottom-up processing changes the way we socialize. We tend to be bottom-up socializers. For instance, an allistic person would attend autism trainings for the same reason Statler and Waldorf attend the Muppet Show. Because I like to heckle and point out what is weird, what is bad, and say...
What? No.
Yes. Yeah. Boy, him being sarcastic? No kidding. Yeah.
But autistic people can't be sarcastic. We don't understand sarcasm.
I can't, and that's my go-to thing when anybody corrects me. I'm like, are you being sarcastic? No. Because, and then it's a total mindfuck for everybody. But for instance, like this one woman, this allistic woman was talking about how she had this horrifying experience with an autistic girl because this autistic girl treated her as an equal instead of, quote, having a healthy fear of adults. And if you want a child to fear you, man, you got some problems, lady. But this is why autistic kids at school will often say, yes, the teacher and the librarian are my friends. I have lunch at the library with the librarian because they are my friend. The principal is my friend. Whereas, allistics will say, yes, the teacher is my boss and the principal is their boss and the superintendent is their boss. And they have this hierarchy which is why a lot of allistic people tend to just follow what people say. Somebody from on high gives an order and it is not questioned because you don't question the boss. But autistic people get into a lot of trouble for saying, man, that was a really stupid thing. Why would you say that? And I got into trouble in community mental health all the time because my boss would say great number of stupid things, including like the rationale for bonuses. And I would be like, as she was announcing it, I would do the math real quick. And I was like, so you're giving us a bonus of $100 per pay period if we bill 300% of our take-home pay. So you're really profiting off of this, and this is a very low ratio. Could we do better than that? And she's like, Matt, you should be very grateful about this. But I am not. And then... Yeah, I was not popular with the Allistics. Yeah, it was a thing. So, that's why I stayed in the closet as best I could, because, they already knew I was weird. But this is the thing about how we process things and the form that discrimination and ableism can take. But this is just one factor of how our socializing differs from neurotypicals and Allistics. And I think that we should probably cut that off right now because we're at 32 and...
we're at 32 minutes, and besides that, it'll give us a chance to go back, review what we've already talked about, so we can make notes about what we need to cover in future episodes.
Exactly, because we got so much stuff. And
so much.
I think next time, let's talk about the intersection of autistics, relationships, gender identity, and all sorts of other neat stuff, because that's a whole big thing that we haven't talked about so far.
Oh, yes.
And I think we might have an expert to talk about that.
I think we might indeed.
So we'll do that, and we'll stop here, and you all have a great one, and we'll see you whenever the next one drops.
Sounds great.
Have a good one.